Bolt your windows. Lock your doors. Check your closets. Look under your bed. And then prepare yourself. For it's another episode of Dark Night of the Podcast. Whoa!
Lure of the campfire, telling of his whore, lost in the woods with the madman and the stars. Don't laugh at the tale, heed if you call him. The legend lives, beware the Madman Marz. Troy, if you would have told me
you threw some Cher in there at the end.
If you were going to tell me that I was going to be gifted with what is, I would say, the best killer theme I've ever heard, and I don't mean that. What a horrible song, but what a grand track to have for this gentleman, Madman Marz. I would not have anticipated coming into this movie that I would have heard like a soft power rock ballad about this guy, but here we are. Unexpected. A lot of things about this movie are unexpected, I would say, Troy. This is all you today.
It is all me. It is all me. You know what? It was a long time coming. It was a long time coming because this has been at the top of my list to cover since we started the podcast. When you think of 80s slashers, especially camp theme slashers, backwoods slashers, you can't gloss over Madman. I mean, how can you?
How can you? Well, I have. Up until this, I have. And you know what? Part of me says I'm the better for it. Part of me finds some strange, endearing quality about this movie that I can't put my finger on. But I mean, what a simple piece of cinema. If you're going to say, tell me the movie, Roger, that has the most basic story out of all the films we've ever covered, what film has the most dumbed down, simplified story it's trying to tell? I would say it has to be Madman. I am shocked by how simplified this story is. And I think there are so many tropes that you come to expect from the genre. And there's clearly some things that were taken from this film. I'm sure there's got to be some elements of inspiration. But really, like, if you're going to compare this up against the other films that came out at that time, specifically the camp slasher genre, if we're going to focus on those films, this has got to be the dumbest film I've ever seen. I mean, like, holy shit. The story is as literally as follows. And I know we're going to analyze it, but we've got to acknowledge this is the story. People tell a campfire story in the woods. Campfire story is true. It proves to be true. The killer from the story then proceeds to kill all the characters one by one. And that is it. There is no revelation. There is no like big reveal. It's not like it turns out that somebody else was in on it. It is just by the numbers, the most basic slasher concept possible. And so I think my biggest gripe going into this review, Troy, is we reviewed a film a couple weeks ago, The Burning, that you had gripes with and I really liked. And now we're covering a film. I don't know your stance on this movie, on Madman. As a movie, I hated it. I think this movie is horrible. It still has a strange charm to it, but this is a film where I hate the characters so much, so much that it really made it difficult for me to get through a single viewing of this film.
Interesting. I don't necessarily think this is a fabulous movie. I don't know where I would rank it as far as if I had to make a list of like the top slashers of the 80s. I don't know where I would put this. I think it would land somewhere in the middle. I will say, and this is going to, be controversial for some people, especially you. I will say I'll watch this over The Burning any day. I feel like the pacing in this film's much better than the burning. There wasn't a lot of effort put into defining, like not every single character needs to be like totally three-dimensional, but who ends up being like our protagonist, who is the character of Betsy. I mean, talk about a paper thin character that really has no necessarily endearing qualities about her. And you pair that with some of these other characters, like the one I'm sure we're really going to talk about, Ellie.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that unfortunate woman, but I warm up to her. The more I watch it, the more I warm up to her. But yeah, this is definitely a film that was not concerned about spending a lot of time getting to know characters. This is really a film that is get these characters out into the woods and kill them. That's all it's concerned with. And what's really interesting is, this came out in 81. This came out the same year The Burning did. This came out the same year Friday the 13th Part 2 did. And you will see parallels galore, particularly with the opening scene of this film. One of the interesting things that I think you want to kind of keep in mind was like the whole lore of this film when it was written and when it went into production, pre-production, they were doing a Cropsey film. The original script, the killer was the Cropsey legend. And it wasn't until they were kind of into pre-production that they realized, oh shit, there's another film that is using the Cropsey legend that's taking place at a summer camp. So they really had to scramble to, I don't know necessarily how much they rewrote, but they had to scramble to come up with a whole different villain in this Madman Marz character.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I bring up the characters first thing because I think my big struggle here is I was really yearning for a character to like. I can have characters I dislike. I need a character to like. And I was really hoping at first that noting that Galen Ross from Dawn of the Dead, whom I think is phenomenal, and I really love her in that film specifically. She appears in this film, though she does appear in this film under a pseudonym of Alexis Dublin, because this is a low budget production and like they were trying to skirt around using named actors. In some ways, I wonder if she almost wanted her name off the project, though. Like, truthfully, like, I think if you compare the performance that she gives in Dawn of the Dead as Fran compared to this, I'm flabbergasted by how just bland she is. But then I look at the material she's given and the character of Betsy, who is supposed to be the final girl here. Let's be clear, that's definitely what they're trying to do, is establish this character to be the final girl. She doesn't get to do anything other than have a jacuzzi scene and oversee paperwork and work work at this winter camp. Who sends their children to a winter camp around Thanksgiving? Boggles my mind why they're even there to begin with, but okay, we'll roll with it. But she doesn't get to do anything that's even remotely like tied to any of the scary elements of the film at all until the final 10 minutes of the movie. She is in no way involved, or aside, she has one brief moment where she thinks she sees something, but it doesn't go anywhere. And so when it finally reaches her as what is the protagonist, she's clueless. And in some ways that's, I guess, kind of interesting, but they don't do anything with it. And it pisses me off. And we're going to get to it because it's a long journey to get to the finale of this film. But it's a bummer that her character specifically, I really came into this, Troy, excited to see her in this role. I have known of this film because of her, because I've wanted to see her in this role. And I'm so immensely disappointed. I really did not like this movie, and I struggle so much with this film, a lot. It was really a tough watch for me.
I think the ending, particularly how they do her at the end of the film, is that she's done dirty. Let's be honest. Yeah. This character is done dirty before she even has a chance to fight. Which, here, I always give films points for being bold and doing something different. And they definitely did something bold with the final girl in this film. Whether you want to say it works or not, I don't know, but I'm going to give them kudos for doing it. And it's kind of the same reason I gave The Burning some kudos a couple weeks ago for having a final boy instead of a final girl. I like when movies take risks and do stuff. But yeah, I was really curious to know to come into this conversation and discover your thoughts on the film. A little bummed that you seem to dislike it so much, but as we talk through it, I will hopefully understand, because I really don't dislike it as much as you do. I think there are really effective things about the film that I will hold it up against the burning any day of the week. But we are discussing, guys, if you haven't figured it out, we are discussing the film with its own fucking theme song, Madman Marz, 1981's Madman. Before we get into Madman, though, we have to plug a couple things. We want to plug our Patreon, because we just recorded our first dual episode for months that we've kept promising. Although we've been putting content out, we've just been doing it individually. But we finally got together and did a Patreon together again, and we discussed our favorite Final Destination franchise deaths. So if you're curious, go to the Patreon, and for the price of what, a fountain drink at Circle K, you can have access to, I mean, we have like 100 bonus episodes up there now. A lot. It's a lot. I'm overwhelmed when I scroll through it. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much we've done, but we really have, because we've had it for about 3 years. So it's 3 years worth of content.
Well, a lot. There's a lot of content, especially if you're coming in a virgin to our Patreon. Welcome, first of all. I mean, get ready. There's some good shit in there, but it's just growing. I mean, the amount of content, it's wild. And I will say, like, some of our finest moments, I feel, are hidden within the depths of that Patreon. You got to go digging for them like gemstones. We drop occasionally a Patreon episode to make sure you all know what's going on, but that's rare. And I don't think we're going to be doing that anytime soon. I'm going to tell you right now. Like, what's in there right now is there to stay. We're really trying to lure you over. But if you like these episodes, there are more episodes that are just as good, if not at times better, over in that Patreon. Let's just say that right now.
And it helps us out. It supports the show. It supports the platforms that we used to record and all that fun stuff. It's patreon.com/darknight of the podcast. If you don't want to, fine, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But we are going to jump right into Madman, because I really am curious to get this conversation going and really hear, Roger, why the film necessarily didn't work for you. We're going to start with, I'm going to say it, I like the simplistic opening credit. What do you want to call it? Visual. It's just like red foresty branches. I will say, I don't know. It just fits like this. It fits like the
amateur.
Amateur. But let's be real. This film is amateur. I mean, talk about low budget. I feel like if you're talking about the camp slasher films, this one is definitely the lowest budget of them all. And I think it really shows, but it almost has like a comic book quality to it, I think. More like a graphic novel, like a creep show type quality to it. Now, the score that accompanies it is completely inappropriate. It's like whimsical. It sounds like you're getting into a Disney movie. That is inappropriate, but I will just say the bold red on the black, I dig it. But then the film transitions into a scene. You cannot have a camp slasher scene without a campfire tale. And we get two of them here. And it goes on. I timed it. It's about 11 minutes of screen time. And keep in mind, this film is about 85 minutes minus the credits. So when I say the film has a brisk pace, it really does. You cannot say that this film drags. This film, well,
you can say this film drags.
There's that pesky jacuzzi scene, right?
Oh my God.
But we'll get there. A campfire. Well, first of all, you get introduced to TP. Can I just say, I hate initial names that just sound like weird.
Name toilet paper?
Like, yeah, I was like, TP. He even has a belt buckle that says TP.
I think his name is TP because they had the belt buckle. I am confident that they're like, this is cool. Yeah, it's a horrible name. Every time they say it, it does not roll off the tongue, TP. Nor does his dialogue, by the way.
It reminded me of like the counselor in Sleepaway Camp Part 2. There's a counselor called TC. And I was like, I wonder if they took inspiration. But what is he doing? I listened to this song a couple times and I'm like, he's just like singing a song. And he is a singer. I mean, he actually recorded several songs for the soundtrack, Roger. He's actually singing the song that's playing during the hot tub scene, if you want some trivia. He was a singer before unfortunately he passed away back in 2009. R.I.P., but he does provide some lovely vocals for the film. But he's just singing about like, oh, when you're in the woods, something out there, it's gonna drag you away into the darkness. Bodies are gonna be dragged into the night, never to be seen again. Goes on forever. I thought this is the main campfire story, right? This is it. No, it's not. There's a whole nother one. But he ends this singing tale by like screaming at this little girl, and she looks uninterested, as do most of the people around the fire. But then it's you launch into a whole nother campfire tale that is told by the owner of the camp, Max. I actually like this guy. I like his voice. I think his voice really suits telling this story.
Coming in on the story is such an abrupt way to enter this world, and for a few reasons. First of all, you don't have you come in, you know nothing about these people. Not only that, you know nothing about the camp, you don't know anything at all. You're immediately thrust into this story that is being sung at you a la like a musical number, but it's a musical number that doesn't like have a defined melody. It sounds like he's making it up as he goes along. And I did read in trivia that he learned the song that day, and it's very apparent because it doesn't. I wouldn't know the guy's a singer. It just is very uncomfortable as he's just singing at these people. And then they all clap for him afterwards like he did something wonderful. And I was like, God, thank God that's done. And then when this Max, listen, okay, yes, he has a very smooth voice. The man looks like Yanni. Remember fucking Yanni?
Yeah, I do
the
remember.
Greek composer Yanni. This man has a very Yanni-like vibe going on. And he does have a very defined voice, but it almost sounds not real. And maybe that's why the story sounds kind of effective. It's kind of dreamy almost. And they do this interesting thing. During the first musical number, you're getting intercuts, flashes of these characters as you're meeting them. What is that? Basically, them meeting their demise. Like you see moments of them reacting in terror before they're dying. So that was a strange choice. And then you launch into this big epic story that is the story of the villain of the film, whose name is Madman Marz. And Madman Marz has a grand story that is honestly like, again, if we're talking by the numbers, like one day this guy came home, took an axe, killed his family. Luckily, again, we're getting intercut footage of this happening, and that looks pretty good. Like the axe to the wife's head looks great. I love that we see his feet just trucking along. Like that's a cool little character trait that they gave him. Jason, you see his first person perspective, and you hear the specific sound stinger. Michael, you see it through his mask, you hear his specific soundtrack. Madman Marz, first of all, gets a rock song, but his perspective is always from his feet. So like you see this shot of his big old clown feet just trucking along, and I kind of dig it. And there's definitely like an aesthetic and a mood that's created with this opening story. So I don't mind it. But one thing that really, really irks me is one of the first things you see as the story is being told is Madman Marz with his big old wounded rubber hands just coming in and grabbing on the trees. And it's like, okay, you, the viewer, are being introduced to the idea that there is no mystery here. There is no, suspense of belief in the fact that like he is real. We know he is real. We're just going to go with it. We're not going to try to convince you or play with your mind. We're just going to introduce the killer as a physical entity, and he is here. And so as we're learning this story, we're just like kind of accepting like, okay, so this is an urban legend that we, the viewer, are learning, and it just is real, and we just have to kind of accept that. like there's nothing else to it. There's nothing more to it. They tell the story. Madman Marz, the character in the story, is in fact real. He does live in this house that they're camping beside, close enough to throw rocks at it and break windows, and apparently they conjure him. I don't know, but that's all it takes. And it's such a basic setup without any lead-in or character development or introduction at all that it feels like it feels almost lackluster in a way for me. And it was not a note that I liked coming into the film on.
I can see that. I can totally see that. But it's you know what? It's very similar to the Cropsey legend. I mean, there's not a lot of of backstory you get about the Cropsey legend. Again, it's an urban legend that just comes to life. He shows up at the camp, starts killing people. We accept it because the tale was told. The opening, like the story about Madman, I swear to God, is the exact same story from a later film that we covered on the podcast. Not me and you, but me and Chris Schamberger, Chris Archesky. Now he got married. It was Axum, a movie that we both, the reason why we hooked up and did the podcast on it is because we both realized that it is the worst horror movie we've both ever seen. So if you haven't listened to our Axum episode, go back and listen to it. But the urban legend is exactly the same. The guy comes home, axes his family to death, disappears into the woods. The bodies are never found, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking Axum took Madman's lore, threw it into their film. Not nearly as effective, but you also find out, yes, so Madman is real. They're camping right next to this house. You would think that if this was common knowledge that a whole family was murdered in this house, they would not let this house stand next to a camp with children, right? I would think you'd want to tear this house down, get it out of here. I also just have to laugh, Roger, at the fact, and I don't know if you thought about this, is like the place is called North Sea Cottages, and it is a camp for special, basically gifted children. However, there are literally 5 children in the entire camp. Why does there need to be like 7 counselors for 5 children? There are literally 5. There's 2 girls and 3 boys.
I don't understand why this camp is operating in the dead of winter, but here we are. And they do say it's Thanksgiving break. I'm like, does the families just send them away for the year? Like, do the kids just live on this camp? I don't understand.
If they act like Richie, yes, you send them away.
Oh my God. Listen, I honestly want to delve into this a little bit further. I normally don't pry like further dialogue on a topic with us. I kind of let us move through it, but I want to kind of go further into this villain here. And I want to pick your brain a bit. I want to delve further into what my gripe is with the character and the backstory. And it's specifically that, you bring up Cropsey, and I think that one of the things that The Burning gave me that this did not is it gave me a backstory, but then it also kind of followed Cropsey for a bit. It made me understand a little bit more why he's so fucking angry. I feel like at least understood the inner workings of Cropsey, what made him tick, and why he then went back to that location. So the urban legend in The Burning exists specifically because of the events that occur that set it all into motion. Here we're just supposed to understand that this urban legend exists, that Max knows about it, and that everything he says in this urban legend is in fact true. And we're just supposed to accept it. I almost feel like in some ways there's so much influence from this character here that went on to other movies like Hatchet. I think I see so much of Madman Marz in a Victor Crowley setup or something like that, And I think that they really took the basic workings of a character like this and then they gave it a heartbeat and a pulse, because truly Madman Marz for me could be replaced with any random fucking killer in a weird, wild outfit. And what we see is wild, but there is nothing about this individual character, be it his backstory, be it his signature style of killing, be it his visual appearance. There's nothing about him that sets him apart or makes him rise above as a slasher killer. There's nothing for me to grab onto and say, but this is what I like about him. He just feels like so run of the mill and bland. And I think that for me, more than anything, is my struggle here. So I'm curious about what about Madman Marz for you? Do you like? I mean, there's not a right or wrong here, but I want to hear from you. What about this connects for you more than a Cropsey setup in The Burning?
If you remember our Burning episode, I specifically mentioned that as a killer, Cropsey for me really lacked any sort of personality. He just showed up on screen and with his hedge clippers and killed, and there was never any moments of him showing any sort of emotion, aggression, anything like that. I think with Madman, I totally understand what you're saying. Yes, in The Burning, we did get a setup. We did get to spend some time with him in the hospital, seeing how burned he was. But I think once he becomes a killer, it's just he's just there. He's bland. He never talks. He never makes a noise. He's just there with his hedge clippers. With Madman, I do see that you do see like the character has some aggression, right? He growls, he makes noises, he runs, he thoroughly thinks about his next move. Like there's a kill in the movie that involves a truck and a hood that really for him took some thinking about what specifically to do to this girl. So I think just it's a character that just gives me a little bit more personality, even if you want to laugh at the grunts and the growls and the noises that he makes. Like there's moments where he's watching somebody and he seems confused and he makes little grunting noises. It's just giving me some personality, some presence. This character is a presence. He's there. He's making these noises. He's just an illuminating figure. And I think that is what makes him a little bit more effective as a killer for me than somebody like Cropsy. Or, even even the original Friday the 13th, the killer was unseen until it was Mrs. Voorhees. And then we get all that personality. I think Madman Marz does show some personality, some animalistic qualities throughout the entire film.
Thank you for answering. There's no wrong answer here. And that makes sense to me. I do think in some ways, like if you embrace this film and the cartoonish nature, you said it opens like a comic book. There is a very elevated reality element to this film that feels heightened reality in a way. It doesn't feel completely real. Be it the way the people look, the way that they're styled, the scenarios that happen, the environments they're in, even the style of that house, and specifically the look of the villain. And obviously we haven't seen him yet. We'll get to it, but he is very cartoonish in a way, almost like a Scooby-Doo kind of villain. But that almost does add to his personality. Like I'm not using that as a slam towards him. I'm almost in a way using it as a compliment, because the thing about him that does stand out is the fact that he is just so over the top that it does make him almost like a caricature. So like I can see what you're saying, that there is more quote unquote personality to this guy. Be it the grunts, be it the shadows lurking, the long nails on his rubbery hands. There is something to that shtick that is there has entertainment value.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's what resonates with some people that are really big fans of this film, because it does have a pretty strong cult following. And you're 100% correct. This definitely influenced Hatchet and Victor Crowley, right down to the look of the killer. They look very similar, silhouetted very similar. But basically, what you find out through Max's finishing this story is that after he chopped up his wife and kids, he went to the bar. Because he's a mean alcoholic. We have to remember that. He went to the bar. He put his axe on the counter and ordered a beer. Well, the town folks figured out what he did. They drug him away. Basically, they hung him in the woods. And one of the townsfolk took his axe and hit him in the face with it and just ripped open his face. Although the explanation of this doesn't match what he looks like at the end of the film when you finally see him, right? But basically, the next morning they go to get his body. He is gone. The bodies of his family are gone. He's never seen again, although Max makes it clear he still lurks in the woods. Well, you get this young camper, Richie, who is like, oh, bullshit, Max. How could they never find his body? And what was this farmer's name anyways? And Max replies, well, you're never supposed to say his name, because if you say his name, he hears you and he comes after you. But his name was Madman Marz. And of course, this little bastard, what's he do? Fucking screams at the top of his lungs, hey, Madman Marz, come get us. And he throws that rock. And Roger, they were close enough to that fucking house that the rock busts through the window. I'm like, wait, the house, you would see it if it was that close, but you don't. Weird. It was weird. This house is just put there. It's not, I'm convinced it's not connected anywhere. This is like a house they had to drive to offset. But he throws the rock, and that's it. This awakens Madman, and And even Max is like, "You've done it now, Richie. You better not go in the woods by yourself. Anybody in the woods by themselves are gonna meet Madman, and he's gonna, you know, he's gonna get you."
I can't tell if Max is like telling the story with extra flair or like literally believes what he's saying. Like I can't read him because his voice is very big and theatrical, but it never stops being that way. That's just like kind of who he is. But like you can tell like the kids are starting to, I guess you can tell they're starting to get scared, like as much as these children can act, which ain't much. But like overall, yeah, this is all it takes. Like, and I mean, I honestly, he was already there. Like, Madman Marz was already hanging out, looming. But I guess this is what it takes. That and breaking his window. I don't fucking understand. There's no way from where they're telling that story in the middle of the forest. There's no way that kid hit that window. I just don't understand. It feels very disconnected. But that's it. And this kid really is like the catalyst for what's happening. And I have a lot of beef with how this character is handled throughout the rest of the film. Like, you know, you mentioned pacing earlier, and I think my I want to keep saying my biggest issue because keep changing, but my one of my takeaways here is I really feel this story moves as though someone put a blindfold on it and pushed it into the dark and said, now tell a story. Like it literally will go from point to point. Like there's one point where for no reason it cuts to a sequence of a character sitting in a canoe playing a woodwind without any explanation. And I just don't understand. You come up in the middle of these moments and they just feel so out of nowhere. The story doesn't feel like it's moving naturally. Nothing about it feels like the natural progression of what would happen amongst these people. And so even just establishing that this is how the ball's getting rolling, that feels really forced. But what happens after this to lure this character of Richie away? Just this character, I don't understand his motivations. I don't understand why he does what he does. And I sure fucking don't understand how he manages to get lost in the woods for multiple hours. It's a really weird choice to have this unfold the way it does.
Yeah, the whole subplot of him lost in the woods, you have to really suspend a lot of belief because there's no way the woods are that big. You try and tell me you can't see you. What we'll get there, but there's a really important thing that Max does end the story or end the warning with, and he says basically you're going to be out in the woods alone. Madman's going to come for you. You're going to smell death, and then the last thing you're going to see is his horrible face. And then he's like, "Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed my story because it's my going away present for you all." I'm like, "What? Who? This is your going away present for these kids is to tell them this horrible story about a man that axed his family to death?" But then they all, you know, he sends them back. And again, I have to reiterate the fact that there are only 5 kids at this camp, and it has 7 counselors, and there's 5 kids.
I I just don't understand why they're there in the middle of the winter. And I read online that like they were trying to at one point convince people that it was summer by painting the leaves green, like individually painting hundreds of leaves green. And I'm like, why wouldn't you just adjust the storyline? So I don't know, be like, sorry, kids, you don't do anything in the story anyway. So we're cutting your part and we're having these people here in the middle of the winter doing like an update to the grounds. I don't know. Something that would make sense that they're there in the winter. But to tell me that you've got 5 to 7 children clustered on this camp, I don't even know of camps that serve this purpose in November, but here we are. It just does not make sense. It certainly does not have the overall just the environment and the ambiance that really any of the other slashers within the subgenre have. Like Sleepaway Camp has got it. The Burning definitely has got it. And even in Friday the 13th, with just having the counselors on the campground and none of the kids, it still feels like you're getting that full experience. You're seeing the full extent of the grounds. This, because you're kind of jumping around in these locations that don't feel connected, I feel like even though it's a slasher that is based out of a camp for kids, you get the least of that specific aspect of the movie out of comparison against the other movies. Like the camp almost feels like an unnecessary subplot. Like this could have really been a lot of different situations that got these kids to be in this area at this time. It could have been a la like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre where their car breaks down. It could have been something else. The camp aspect is very minor here and almost feels like it isn't needed.
Well, yeah, I mean it's the middle of winter. What are they going to be doing outside? So yeah, most of the action is with the kids, anyways, is inside. There's the one little girl who tells Betsy that story scared me so bad I could hardly open my eyes. I'm like, bitch, we saw you the whole time watching. I mean, you never had your eyes closed. So we learn that TP and Betsy are apparently an item that they only have a fling. It's insinuated during this 1 week of camp each year. Because he asks her if they're going to meet at the same time, same place as last night. And she's like, oh, not tonight, TP. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for scaring the kids half to death. She is really a fucking wet blanket from minute one. You're around a campfire. That's what you're supposed to do, is tell you're supposed to tell campfire tales. She doesn't let this go the whole fucking movie. She does not let it go that the kids were scared. Oh, I think you scared the kids. I'm sorry. These kids look like none of these kids are like little 6-year-olds, right? These are gifted kids. They should be able to understand that this is just a story, but she is distraught. They get into an argument. One of the other counselors, who is Stacy, comes over and basically tells them they need to knock it off because they're making this whole thing public, and to keep it behind closed doors. Not everyone needs to know your business.
I am so confused by the relationship between TP and Betsy. I'm so confused because it seems to be such a heavy element introduced right away that they're not working. They are having some relationship problems. I don't know how long they've been together. I don't know how heavy this has been. Like, are they long-term dating, or is this like a casual fling? But he seems really into it and she seems fucking over it. And that's it. And it seems like she really needs space. And then all of a sudden, in a second, you get this jacuzzi scene out of fucking nowhere where it seems like they're madly in love. And it just like this relationship takes this sharp turn and it makes it feel very meaningless because it just seems it's so flippant. It's handled with very little care or respect of the characters themselves. Either I want him to be an asshole and I don't want to like him and I want it to make her a stronger character, or I want him to be a good guy and have her like having doubts for reasons that are reasonable. And then I don't know, have him step up and prove himself. I don't like his character. There's something about him I'm just not a fan of. I think he's written and approached in a way to make him seem kind of like he's kind of a dick. But then you've got this really weird romantic interaction coming up between the two of them here soon that just feels very, like I said, out of left field. So I'm not sure, I just don't understand what the goal was with these two. I don't understand why this was written the way it was, to be honest. It makes these characters feel very disposable.
Well, they end up being very disposable, right? So everyone heads back to camp. As TP has taken the boys back to the camp, Richie sees what is a looming figure with long hair blowing in the wind in a tree. Like, he's in a tree, right? He's climbed a tree and is staring down at everyone. I don't know. I mean, he's clearly there. I don't know why Richie wouldn't speak up and be like, TP, there's a fucking man in a tree right there. But he stays quiet. And actually what he does is he sneaks away from the group that's headed back to camp to basically follow this figure. And this figure ends up going into the farmhouse, Roger. And what does Richie do? He follows behind like it's nothing. Like it's nothing. He goes into the house. He doesn't realize that the figure went in through the cellar. And we do see that Madman, because that's who it is in the cellar. He's lit a candle. He has a whole little setup down in the cellar, unaware that Richie is above him.
There's something about this moment of him watching Richie luring him over to the house that I actually quite like. There is a moment here that starts to develop something that I think is really ominous, and it's the silhouette of Mars in the tree that, like, part of me is like, why would you ever follow that? Like, it's so obvious. But also it's just the way that they captured the shot, it does feel very intimidating. Why Richie follows him into the house is beyond me. Again, characters making decisions, choices that just don't make sense. They don't fit. They don't feel inspired. So he goes inside the house, and there's this whole bit in here, and it's so weird, like because he's in the house. And then he leaves, and everybody's left, and he starts to go into the woods. He gets lost. This journey that he's about to go on that brings him back to the house again. It really, at this point moving forward, Richie is not part of the story at all, other than people looking for him. They could have killed this kid, and it would have probably been all the better for it. But they just, from at this point on, they're just going to have him walking around the house or walking through the woods, and that's all he gets. And I don't know how to feel about this character because he just doesn't. I don't know anything about him. He doesn't fucking do shit.
Yeah, he's a kid. He is, for the rest of the film, we see him walking through the woods, going into the house every so often. He can find his way back to that house multiple times, but he can't find his way back to the camp, which I found troubling, considering this is supposed to be a gifted child. Back at the camp, Stacy and Betsy are having some girl talk where basically Betsy tells Stacy that she doesn't know if she wants to see TP in town because she needs some breathing room. But she also says there's things she likes about him, and when they're alone together, he is tender, and she's just really confused. So again, my impression is that they live in the same town, they live in the same city, because that's the thing, is he tells her in the scene prior that you know when we get to the city you're not going to want to see me. So I'm thinking it's like this is just a fling that happens when they're at this camp, and now she realizes she may be falling in love with him, and she is kind of afraid of that, so she's pushing away. It's just a quick conversation where Betsy thanks Stacy for always listening to her, for being an ear. They're going to have to connect when they get back to the city, and that's it. You know, it's a brief attempt at some characterization, because gosh, we don't get a lot of it.
Well, and I will say that these two girls are probably overall my favorite characters, even though neither of them get a ton to do. Stacy at least has some spunk to her, and that big bouffant afro. I like that. And overall, Betsy, it's not like she's performed poorly. Like, I mean, the performance is fine. It's just, again, a lot of the dialogue is pretty uninspired. But I love looking into Galen Ross's big cow eyes. Those big eyes like a cow, like, and I say that lovingly, like just heavy lidded, massive eyes that just stare into your soul. So like, I like her in the role. It's just, I wish I had like 3 more scenes like this. It really could have warranted it, because they do have a nice, fine chemistry together. I'll take it. Let's talk about a couple other positives really quick, because I don't want to just slam on it. One thing I do like about this campground is, even though I do not understand what exactly has gathered this group of individuals together on this campground to serve what purpose, I don't know. Okay. There's something about the look of the campground that I do like, because it doesn't look like any of the other campgrounds in any other camp slashers. Like, it looks distinctly its own. The style to it, it looks very wintry. There's rooms and locations and settings here that I don't know if I would expect on a campground, like the jacuzzi. But okay, cool. Like a campground with a jacuzzi, I'm down for that. But overall, there's a different vibe to this environment that when you are specifically amongst the cabins, I kind of like it. I do.
I think the film definitely creates a really strong atmosphere, not only with the visuals, the camp visuals, but also the sound design, which we'll talk about here soon as the film really kicks into gear. There's some great sound design. And yeah, I like Stacy too. She reminds me a little bit of Brenda from the original Friday the 13th for some reason, just that same like sort of subtle spunk. So outside, TP is out there with Max, and there is a tree trunk that has an axe that has been rusted into it. And apparently Max promises anybody that can get the axe out of the trunk will get $100. So TP tries, it won't budge. They both try, it won't budge. drunk. What's his name? Dippy, the cook, Dippy. He's drunk, has a whole fucking bottle of Jack Daniels that he's downed. They're like, "Hey, Dippy, come help us," and he just like collapses into a chair. And basically, this whole thing is, TP's like, "God damn it, I hate losing," and Max says, "You play too hard to win, TP, and you might not like what you become." TP says, "You become a winner. That's what you become." There's some really like, I don't know. I don't want to say deep dialogue, but just dialogue that is trying to maybe give these characters a little bit of depth. Like I was really, my interest was piqued in like what has happened in TP's life that gets him so aggressive that he needs to be a winner. Like he gets really like worked up about like, I don't like to lose. So what happened in your life? Give us a little bit of backstory, because it's just, otherwise this dialogue, it just rings really out of place and awkward for the type of movie this ends up being. Does that make sense?
Oh, well, when I said earlier that, like, his character almost comes off as unlikable, is like he doesn't have a ton of moments overall that really feel like they're developing personality for this guy, but when they do, oftentimes, like I said, it feels almost unlikable. And so this like kind of aggressive moment he has with Max, who seems to be loved by everybody, it seems like almost like he's overreacting and Max is having to like calm him down. And it's just a weird energy to establish for this character. Let's talk about Dippy for a minute, if we may. Okay. So Dippy is the alcoholic chef. Dude doesn't get a single line of dialogue. He's not at the campfire, which I guess to be expected. But then Dippy just saunters across the set, guzzling alcohol, walks into a cabin, and let's be clear, is going to be killed. This character is on camera maybe 30 seconds overall for the course of the movie. Like, this man does so little. Again, like, couldn't they have had a scene of him serving the children? It's a short movie. Couldn't they have treated his character maybe a little bit more like the cook in Sleepaway Camp, who at least had a couple of moments before he was boiled alive, Like, I mean, at least those characters had something to them. This guy, all he's got is a bottle of Jack and a neck wound, and that's all he's got. And it's fine. But literally, this guy just walks up and opens a door, and there is this hulking, long-haired man with flowing hair who looks like a troll doll who attacks him, and he just rips his neck out. He just slashes his neck out, and he's dead. And I was like, whoa, I just met this man named Dippy. If you're going to give someone a name like Dippy, I got to know more. Like, I need you to explain how to get that name. Who is he? Does he have a family? What got him here? Give me something. Give him a line. It's just so weird that they didn't even give this man a lick of dialogue. It feels so, again, disposable is going to be a word we use a lot tonight.
But I mean, all you need is to see him with that empty Jack Daniels bottle stumbling to the pantry to get another bottle, I'm assuming, after he's downed a whole Jack. I would feel he'd be dead, but I mean, we have to talk about, I mean, yes, when he opens that pantry, I think the first time you see this movie, it's a little bit shocking. Like Madman is right there. He growls, he's like, slashes, rips this man's throat open. I would say it's a pretty decent effect. They weren't working with a Tom Savini, obviously, but I still think some of the effects in the film are pretty good, pretty effective. And then he's dragged away. Like we have to also talk about Madman dragging these people back to this farmhouse unseen. Again, we don't know how far the farmhouse is from this camp. Apparently you can throw a rock at it from the camp, but keep in mind, he's dragging these people through the woods back to the basement to do something very much reminiscent of the Mutilator, the killer in the Mutilator, which we will talk about, because again, I think you mentioned a lot of films took stuff from this film, and I think that's another one. But yeah, it's like shocking. This man is throat's ripped open. Madman's in the pantry. That's it.
You're telling me that this campground is this close to this house, that this fucker hasn't done this before? I'm just saying that, like, this to suddenly come up and be an issue seems a little surprising that nobody has yet detected that this gigantic man with very long hair and a prominent facial scar is living 10 feet from the campground. Like, I mean, I feel like you got to be able to see the campground from where he lives. But then again, how does Richie get lost for multiple hours in these woods? It's not connecting. There's something here that is not connecting for me.
Also, how fucking worthless does law enforcement have to be that they haven't been able to find this guy for 30 years because they're like, oh, he disappeared. He's living in the fucking house that he killed the family in. How do you not know that?
And full circle, then, and if he actually did this because he's physically there, who had the gall to build a children's camp literally next door? Because again, there's no way that they couldn't have been aware of this. So there's just a lot of questions that are unanswered. Another question is Max is about to leave and he's pretty much gone for the rest of the movie.
He's
like, I mean, what the fuck is up with this guy?
He's like,
why wouldn't you bring him back more prominently?
He's like Steve Christie. He leaves for the most of the film. He does come back at the end for a brief moment. But yeah, now we get the bunkmate. So again, we have 5 kids. There's 2 boys now that are in their bunks, and they realize that Richie hasn't come back. Now, I would think that you would be concerned that your friend is missing, but they think that it's okay. In fact, they're gonna like stuff his bed to make it look like he's still sleeping in it to give him time to get back. I don't know where they think he is. They're not concerned about it. So guess what? Neither am I, because I know he's wandering around the woods. So
only bad acting Batman, by the way.
Oh, yes. These kids. I mean, Richie's not great, but of the kids, he's definitely, I can see why they gave him the most to do, because oh boy. Yeah. Especially that girl, the little girl. But these 2 boys, yeah, they're not winning any awards anytime soon, because it's rough. So back to Richie. He is in the farmhouse looking, he's in the attic. I think he's looking through the attic, and he hears like a door shut downstairs. So we see Madman, every time he kills somebody, I guess he goes to his basement to light a candle. He keeps lighting candles and then putting them out with his hand. He's oblivious that Richie is in the house still. And we see that he grabs a rope and he puts the candle out. He runs out of the cellar door. Richie looks out the window and literally sees this hulking man with a rope running across the yard. And again, does he do anything? Does he have any sense of urgency? Does he act like, hey, I better get back to the camp and warn these people? No. He continues just to snoop around the house.
He seems so unfazed by this gorilla-like man flailing his arms, running from
with a
the
rope
house, like with a rope. Like, he couldn't look more ominous if he tried. And Richie's just like, oh wow, okay, guess I'll go wander in the woods for 3 hours over this. Yeah, it's again very strange. And so yeah, you basically got the whole story is now just Madman Marz running from the house to the campground, killing someone, running back to the house, dropping off the body, going back to the campground, killing another person. That is it. And I mean, I need to be clear, there is not going to be really a big surprise. I guess they shake it up a little bit at the finale, but really that is what we're in for. And at this point, I'm consistently shocked how they manage to repeat the same actions. One by one, people go out into the woods to see what's going on and get killed. And it starts to become a retread of the same sequences, but nothing is worse than this kid in the woods. You'll be following the story, and all of a sudden you see this kid progressively more disheveled, dirt on his face, just wandering through foliage. I don't understand how he can't find the camp.
I'm with you. That's the one thing I kept thinking is, how are you not walk? You can find the farmhouse perfectly fine multiple times, but you cannot find your way back to the camp. I don't know. So back at the camp, The counselors are having dinner. Basically, Max comes in to tell them that he's going into town and he's going to go into town. He's going to play cards. The beer that they have hidden in the refrigerator, enjoy. Remember when I said Betsy doesn't let up about that campfire tale? You could have given this girl any other dialogue, any other thing to say, but instead, she's like, Max, I have something to say about the campfire tales. I'm concerned that it's scaring the younger children, and I don't think it's appropriate. Many of them were in tears after the tales. I'm like, bitch, not one kid was crying. We saw it. Like, there was nobody crying at all, but she's like, they were in tears. They're scared to death. And of course, because Max is the saccharine sweet, everyone loves him. He's like, oh, Betsy, you are right. I've never thought about that. You know what I'll do next year? I won't let the younger kids come. Will that make you happy? And she's like, oh, yes. He leaves. TP makes a toast. His toast is to apologize for him and Betsy arguing in front of everybody earlier in the film. He's like, I shouldn't have done that. We should have taken that behind closed doors. And everyone just gives him a round of applause. We have to keep in mind, we are also introduced now to two other counselors that are sitting there, Dave and Ellie and Bill. There's three other counselors we haven't really seen yet. They're all there.
And what a colorful cast of characters they are. Indeed. This speech is very strange and robotic, as is the response to it. Like, I would just be like, this is uncomfortable. Stop bringing it up. But apparently, like, this is all it takes for Betsy to be smitten. Being like, wow, thanks for publicly sharing our personal issues with the people that we're residing with on this campground. Thanks for just spilling it to everybody. I guess I'll go fuck you in a fucking jacuzzi, because that's exactly what's about to happen. And I mean, talk about unexpected sequences. This comes out of nowhere, and this is extremely, like, it's sensual, but awkwardly so. And this music is horrible. Like the song, you said it's this guy, that poor guy. At least we see his fuzzy ass. It's the only thing he's bringing to the table. He's got a fuzzy ass. You see it get in the jacuzzi. Other than that, I don't want anything to do with him. But he's in the jacuzzi. Galen Ross is in the jacuzzi. Demure, covering herself, delicate with her platinum blonde hair. And they start, like, waiting around in the jacuzzi. They're twirling in the jacuzzi. At one point, they both emerge from the water in unison as a transition. It is so weird, and it's not how anybody acts in a jacuzzi. But okay, like, I guess things are cool now. Like, that's all it took.
For a while. I mean, they're circling the jacuzzi. They're like doing these little twirls as they're going around the outer or the inner perimeter of the jacuzzi, giving each other lovey-dovey eyes. And you were like, what the fuck? On and on. And yeah, that song, yeah, I mean, but finally they kiss passionately, as then we cut to the exterior of the cabin and you hear heavy breathing as they're making out and someone's watching. And then we get that really quick shot of Madman's face looking in at him. And it's quick. It's quick. Well, I do like the fact that this film does not necessarily hide the killer. Like, the killer is not hidden. We see his feet. We see his hands grabbing trees, as you mentioned earlier. We'll see glimpses of his face. He's never hidden. Like, they're not trying to conceal him. They want to show that he's always there, somewhere lurking. And I really like that aspect. So after this, I mean, this fucking jacuzzi scene,
So cringy. It's so long.
It's long. It's uncomfortable. I don't know what they were going for. Who on set thought that this looked sexy or intimate?
It also feels like very dislocated from the campground. I am not convinced that jacuzzi is actually on that campground. I just think someone had a jacuzzi and they're like, we got to put it in the movie.
But, bless their hearts, they made up. Right? She decided she's going to fuck him after all. So there you go. Now we cut back to Richie, who is now wandering around the woods. And this is where we find out he is lost, because he verbally says, oh, where am I? Oh my God, where am I? Just that's how we know he's lost, Roger.
I mean, I would also buy it due to like the gaping mouth, fawn-eyed expression he has the rest of the film, which is just like this like glazed over look of confusion that never leaves his face for the remainder of the movie. But I don't think no, he has another line after this, but really like this kid just it's like meanwhile back at the ranch, like this kid is off doing his own thing and he really like causes a lot of shit for people. This kid is the fuck up of the movie. If this kid was not at that campfire, I guess none of this would have happened. I guess this is what it took. Throwing that rock through that window is really what it took, I guess. But if it wasn't for him, all these people would have made it through the night. I'm convinced.
It is solely Richie's fault that this happens. And again, that makes the end of the film a little bit frustrating. So he's lost in the woods. We cut to lovely Stacy, who is sitting in a canoe with her flute in the middle.
Where'd that come from? like, really? Like, okay, let me at least show her playing the flute earlier, but just to have her in a canoe playing a flute in the middle of November. I just don't. You just know someone wanted to do a canoe shot. It feels so weird. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to question that moment.
Well, she realizes it's probably cold and she needs to get back to the camp. So she gets out of the canoe. She's going back and she has to climb up this hill and she falls. And like this bitch is struggling to get up this hill, Roger. She is
like me climbing a hill.
she is strong. But as she reaches the top and she finally gets up, we do see Madman's hand like grab and barely miss her because she gets up just in time. And I mean, if you think playing the flute out of nowhere was kind of awkward, what does she do? She turns around to the hill and she razzes the hill. She goes,
I mean, I read that the people that like wrote this script and made this movie, that this was their first time ever doing this, and I buy it. I've never blown a raspberry at anyone or anything, let alone an inanimate object. And I guess it was her way of being like, I showed you, but girl, you're just out of shape. I'm sorry, like, not my fault or the hill's fault that you can't scale that slight incline. So, but okay. And her, like, I like her character, but there's a simpleness. I almost think she's a lesbian as well. Not saying that simple and lesbian go hand in hand. No, but she's the only one that doesn't have a lover, and again, the girl can fix a truck. And I just feel like maybe there's some hidden lesbian vibes here. I really like to think that she and Betsy have experimented.
oh,
I don't know. I'm trying to create some creative backstory.
Roger, no,
for these
because you
characters.
can read into it. Because remember earlier in the cabin when they're having the girl talk, Betsy's like, "Oh, well, why don't you find a man?" And she's like, "You are right, Betsy. I do want to find a man, but I'm not right away. I need to take my time." And then she has that line where she's like, "And you know my past." Remember her saying that? You know my
God,
past.
She also knows the innards of your vagina, Stacy. So if that's what you're implying, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird choice to have her just blow a raspberry. Like it feels very of the era, very dated.
But then, I mean, if the raspberry it doesn't shock you enough, what about this next scene? This next transition?
What the fuck is going on here? I like listen, but you know what? This, if anything, if there's anything about this movie I can vibe with, like I have been so stoned that I too have laid side by side by side by side, my head beside multiple people's in a row, and just talked about the world. Like if these fuckers are stoned, I'll take it. I don't know if they're stoned. They act like they are, but I also just think that they're just
But
simple people. But like,
we
like,
really,
I mean,
we're
there's some-
downplaying how they're laying. Like the two guys
yeah.
our heads are next to each other and they're laying perpendicular, and then the girls are behind them with their heads together. But it's like almost like a puzzle. Like they're fit together like a puzzle. It is very fucking weird.
It looks like an ABBA cover.
Yes.
Like it literally, like if the camera is over them and like Mamma Mia, shift heads. Here we go again. My, how can I resist you? Shift heads. Like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It looks like they're set up for a really good performance of Mamma Mia by a campfire or by a burning fireplace. We don't get that. Instead, we just get this awkward moment now of Dave Now Dave gets a monologue, and everybody in this movie gets a monologue, and it's always told as though they're like a mustache twirling villain from the 1920s. Like every monologue or every story that people tell here, it's always very big and over the top and like Disney villain esque. And I don't even know what this story is about. Why is he suddenly getting all mysterious and talking like this? What is he even getting at? It's just a weird choice.
He pulls out a knife and he starts talking about how you never really know what's in somebody's mind or what they consider as normal. What you consider as normal, I might not consider normal. What I consider normal might be dragging your bodies out into the woods and mutilating them. And then Ellie's like, Dave, are you okay?
They're fucking stoned. That's what I'm saying. These fuckers are ripped off their fucking asses. They're laying in a lineup, just fucking talking about the world, and then the guy fucking pulls out a knife. And you could tell that people are kind of uncomfortable with it. So I'm curious if I mean, like, almost like it feels like they're trying to give him a red herring energy, but you well know that this guy is not going to be the killer because there's that muffin man running around, like with his long hair, and running around out there. You know, I don't know what was the vibe they were trying to establish with this moment.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's just like it's supposed to somehow thematically connect to the title of the film, Madman, because basically the gist of his little story is that you never know who around you could be mad. Like you never know who around you is insane. Like he's like, I could be insane. And then I think he's just like razzing them because at the end of the thing, he's like, I could chop off your heads, kind of paralleling back to the earlier story that they were told around the campfire. And then he jumps on them and they all laugh and have a little moment. But it is really weird. It comes out of very left field for this character to be. This is the first dialogue he has in the film, and for it to be so just weird and laced with like violent tendencies, it's just like, okay, this was what we're going for. But then at the end, it's all fun and games. They're laughing, and then we cut to Richie still trekking through the woods. He can't find his way back. He is mouth agape, doesn't know where he's at. TP has gone to the boys' cabin and realizes that Richie is gone. So he orders them not to leave, and he's going to go out and find Richie. So he goes outside and tells Betsy, hey, I got to go find Richie. He was my responsibility. Don't worry. Just go to the office and wait for me. So he kisses her and off he traipses into the woods when out of the corner of her eye, it's not even out of the corner of her eye, she fully sees the madman, the giant hulking figure, creep between the two cabins. She sees him and she's shocked at first. And then she's like, TP, TP. And he's, yeah, what? And for some reason, she suddenly dismisses it. She's like, oh, nothing. It's fine.
I would absolutely not dismiss a man that looks like that lurking on my premises, especially when there are fucking children. So you're not doing your job. Let's be clear. As a camp counselor, you are not doing your job here. But somehow she's just okay with it and sends the man off to his death because this is what's going to happen. This guy is about to go off and die, and it's about time. I'm ready for one of these individuals to meet a grisly demise. And I will say, what's about to come here for this character, again, I have gripes with this movie, but I actually think that this does a pretty good job of setting up several kill sequences kind of back to back to back. And especially in the fact that it's really kind of doing the same thing over. The next character to die after him pretty much gets the same treatment, but somehow they manage to make it exciting still. So I do want to acknowledge, like, I do like this sequence that's about to follow of him going off into the woods and what happens to him. I think is pretty damn effective.
I actually like the kill scenes in this film. I think they are all really well done and suspenseful, and there's a lot of build up to them. Because, yeah, Madman watches TP go into the woods and he follows him. Now, Bill and Ellie, for some reason, again, this is November. There are plenty of cabins. For some reason, Roger, they're out in the middle of the woods in a tent. And we really haven't got to spend any time with them. And Ellie is an interesting character.
Is that the word you're going to use about Ellie, to define Ellie, you're going to say interesting. That's a choice word. That's one of multiple words I would use for her. I do want to acknowledge that Bill, with that fucking little mustache, I want to sit on his face. He's so cute as a button. What's he doing with a macaw-looking woman like Ellie? Like, Troy's been waiting for this. Listen, if there's one thing I am going to be good at, it's describing the time I spent watching Ellie on camera. This woman is hard to watch. This woman is she has a very unique look. I don't know what a gal like her is doing with a guy like him. Good for her. I'd say it's her personality, but that ain't bringing much to the table either. What is with these dulcet tones of her voice when she speaks? She's got a very Bjork-like quality to her dialogue, where she sounds very like just kind of quiet. Bill, what's going on? Like, she sounds so meek. And there's always got to be a character in one of these films who's just incompetent. But boy, does she take that and run with it. There is nothing about Ellie that makes me want her to live. There's nothing about Ellie that at all that I would say she's really bringing to the table. But I mean, she's hard to look at. I can't tell if she's mid-scream or overjoyed. She looks like she's got a Keebler elf thing going on, from her hair to her wardrobe. I could talk about her for days. I'm not a fan of her. They give her a lot of screen time. She gets one of the most prolonged chase scenes I've ever seen. And it's just weird choices. But this gal is really unpleasant to look at. Like, I've been trying to dance around it, but I have not seen someone. No, listen, and I hope she's not listening, ma'am. If you're listening, I am sure you gave this your all, but looking at this woman is a task for me. And I did it multiple times for you listeners, and I hope you appreciate it, because I do not like her face.
Poor Ellie. Oh my God. If you do Ellie wrong, you're doing us all wrong, Roger. We're all Ellies. All of us.
Oh my God. Are we? I hope not. Ellie, who cannot survive because of her own incompetence.
She can land Hottie Bill because he is hot. I mean, he is fucking hot. That I was like, how did she get him? But he is madly in love with her. He even tells her, Ellie, I want to be with you. I love you. And they're out in the middle of this fucking tent. I mean, Ellie, I knew you were going to have a lot to say about her. I would assume anybody that watches this film is going to have a lot to say about Ellie, because some of the choices this woman makes are absurd. And then how, like, there's moments in this film where she is so fucking helpless, and like, I'm like, honey, just kill yourself, because you're not doing yourself any favors. And her whimpering and her, sobbing, and hard to tell if she's scared or if she's having the time of her life with that face. I don't know, but it's real weird. She gets more screen time, Roger, than Betsy. I mean,
yes.
That chase scene goes on. So they're out in the middle of the tent in the middle of November. Now we cut to TP. He is in the woods looking for Richie. And again, the build up to the kills in this film, they take their time. There's a lot to this kill, and ultimately I think the kill pays off big time because it's really fucking brutal. And I do think that killing this character off first was a bold choice. Because so far he has been probably the most prominent character in the film, and to kill him off so brutally, at first I was definitely shocked. But he's trucking through the woods, and we're hearing twigs snapping here and there. He shines the flashlight through the woods, and there's that fucking quick shot of, you see Madman's face. He's holding the rope with both hands in front of him. It's real quick, but it's super fucking scary. He thinks that it is Richie. So he goes, I mean, he's goes deeper into the woods. He's investigating. He hears more twig snapping. He's like, Richie, is that you? And he gets kind of to this clearing, and he stops for a minute, and his face starts to get crunched up, scrunched up. And you can tell he smells something. And he says, something smells like death. And before he can finish, that rope is thrown around his neck. He's yanked down to the ground violently, dragged through the woods for like what seems like minutes until finally the madman like hoists him up and ties the rope around a tree. And you get this wide shot of him hanging from the tree, just gurgling and screaming, trying to get the rope off of its neck. And it's really fucking violent before he's able to grab onto the branch and hoist himself up to get relief so he's not hanging by his neck. And he's hanging there and he's like, fuck, somebody help me. And Madman walks in front of him. We see his TP belt buckle again. Madman grabs him by the waist, yanks him down. His neck snaps. You hear that snap. That's what this is. At this point in the film, this is when the sound design fucking really kicks into high gear. You hear that snap. Madman watches him swing. You hear the wind howling. You hear the creaking of the branch as the rope is swinging back and forth. And you get just that wide shot of a dead, gnarly looking TP hanging from this tree. I mean, I think it's super effective. I think this whole thing is super, super effective.
I agree. I think that the buildup is really nice. I really like the shot of the flashlight passing over top and really quickly revealing Marz in the trees. And the noose reveal is great. You know, when it goes around his neck, I love seeing him get dragged along the ground. It's really physical. You know, the movie needed this at this point, and they take it there. And you know, I mean, a hanging can be so throwaway. You know, if it's done wrong, a hanging can be kind of a letdown. But this is not just physical, it's drawn out. And that is, I think, one of the things is like when this film does work, when it is in its finest form, is when they're letting it take its time in the moment of like building dread. And one thing that I find really unique about a lot of the moments in this film that are building dread is those are often the quietest moments in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is something about the silence in this film that works in its favor when characters are standing in the middle of the woods and all you hear is just the silence and the sound of the nature. And there's not really any like unique sound design in the sense of like, it's not like Friday the 13th where you hear the sounds of the lake and everything. You know, it's just kind of quiet and occasional the rustling of the breeze. And it's very still, and that makes it it's unsettling, you know? And so when this does hit, it hits extra hard. There's a punch to it. There's a pop to it. And the whole bit of him up in the tree trying to hoist himself up and grabbing onto the branch. And you see what he's trying to do, but you're also like, fuck, this dude cannot breathe. Holy shit, this is intense. And then dude walks up and just pulls him down. And yeah, that snap, it hits hard. And then that extra shot of him just kind of hanging there and it's quiet again. And it really, it's very eerie. And then one thing they cut back to later that I really like this little detail, but I'm going to mention it now, is a character actually sees the rope marks in the tree later, which I think is a great little detail. So I do like that they keep harking back to this. They keep coming back to the same spot because different characters are lured back to this area after seeing the lantern that he drops. So I also like that too. Like it does kind of connect why people keep getting drawn here because they see the light from the lantern in the distance, which I think is a really eerie little detail. But yeah, this is a fine sequence. It's a really good hanging. It is surprising that his character is killed off so quickly, which makes you feel like this is going to give Betsy quite a lot of ammo to really step it up and kick it into high gear when this all culminates and builds into a finale. Makes it extra disappointing when that doesn't happen. But yeah, for this moment, as a standalone moment, this is quite a strong sequence.
Yeah, I do like the word you used, eerie. I think the film really succeeds at creating an eerie atmosphere. And it is like the moments of silence or the moments of just hearing the wind howling, and just like the isolation that you do feel from this summer camp, or it's not a summer camp, this camp location. I think that the film manages to really create an unsettling, eerie atmosphere that I do think is probably one of the more creepy of an 80s slasher film in terms of setting and atmosphere. It just gets really uncomfortable and really creepy to watch, knowing that these characters are wandering around the woods. He's out there. You're just hearing things that now you know are connected to death, like the creaking of the tree branch that Dave hears here in a moment that we know is TP's body swinging on the rope, causing the branch to creak. I think those little details are super, 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 super creepy. And I do like the fact that it cuts from seeing TP hanging dead. I mean, he's blue in the face, his neck has been snapped, to Betsy pulling the last petal off a flower, and it's "He Loves Me." And she's like, "Oh, I knew it was going to be He Loved Me." But she's concerned that TP isn't back yet. So she goes and tells Dave and Stacy that she is concerned that TP left. He said he would be right back. It's been a while. He hasn't come back. Stacy is like, "Why are you worried about it so much? Like, why do you look so worried? You look really worried." Well, Betsy tells them about the figure that she saw. And of course, the response from Dave is to like basically call her a liar. He's like, "Oh my God, Betsy, you don't got to make up stories for me to go, look, here, look, I'll do it. I'll go look for her. I'll go look for him. You don't have to make up stories." And she's like, "I'm not making it up. I think I saw somebody. I did see somebody out there. Or at least I think I did." Well, bitch, you either did or you didn't. Make up your mind. But he's like, "You're a liar, but I'll go out and look for TP." So he does. He goes out, he walks past that trunk that has the axe in it from earlier. And as he passes it, we see Madman walk up to that trunk, grab that axe handle with one hand, and just pull it out. Now, we know how strong he has to be because earlier in the film, we saw two men literally trying to pull it out and it would not budge.
If you're going to talk about sound design that works in this film, I mean, the sound of this tree stump cracking open is actually really effective for some reason. And then the axe does become kind of like his token go-to weapon moving forward. So I do like, the little things here I like that axe bit from earlier had purpose. This is going to become the weapon he's wielding as his focal villain weapon of choice. So I like that they tie that in. I like that she at least mentioned that she saw something. It's not like she just completely disregards it and it's pointless. At least she's acknowledging it. So it does get things moving. It does get Dave moving. He's now going out to look for TP. And, I found it at first, upon first viewing, I was almost kind of annoyed that, like I had mentioned this earlier, but this follows a lot of the similar beats. But I do almost feel like they kind of develop a style here. And I do kind of appreciate that. Like what's about to happen with Dave is exactly the same thing we saw with TP. The outcome is not the same, but you get a lot of this drawn out moment of people just wandering through the woods. But like it works. It does work. It is creepy. And again, you're right. It's the sound design that they're going to play into it. But it is a very similar, it almost becomes procedural in a way that they go through these exact same beats to get these characters to this exact same spot.
And, they always do something to show that Madman is there. Because when Dave goes into the woods, he is lured to the spot where TP was attacked because his flashlight is still on the ground and it's lit. So he picks it up, and as we see him like bending down to pick it up, we see the axe raise behind him, and he's distracted by a cracking noise, so he's able to get out of the way before the axe is swung down on him. And he's holding the flashlight. He's like, "TP, you out here?" And it's real quiet, and like the only thing you hear, Roger, is that creaking of the tree branch as something is swinging on it, and we know what it is. And he's just like backing away, looking around, and all of a sudden behind him, TP's feet come into view. I mean, they're hanging and they're at head level with Dave. So when Dave turns around and he sees these feet, he looks up and we see TP hanging there. And I mean, it looks really effective. Like now this corpse is like the face is all blue. The eyes are, bulged. It's really a great, great effect. And then TP's body falls on him, knocks him to the ground, and he's able to get up and run, and he gets behind a tree, gets his pocket knife out. He slowly peeks around a tree, and Madman is just right there, swings the axe at him, misses it, causes him to fall to the ground. swings a few more times. One time the axe goes into the tree, barely missing Dave's head. And then Dave like trips again. And we get that really cool silhouette that's used like on the box art of Madman holding the axe, kind of just in the fall, in the bask of light, the moonlight just approaching. And ultimately, Dave is trying to back away, and Madman literally jumps on him and swings the axe. We don't see the impact. We see aftermath here in a few minutes, but we don't actually see the impact. Again, a very nice, slow, deliberate build up to this death scene. A lot happens with him discovering TP's body, it following on him. It's a nice build up.
Yeah. I mean, same notes as I would say TP's kill. I like the buildup. I love the realization of the legs hanging beside him, the way the body drops. It all plays really well. And the visuals of, like you said, the killer like approaching, silhouetted with the light behind him. It's a really bold visual, and I especially like the shot of him jumping over top Dave, wielding the axe. It looks really violent. Like he raises the axe up. You can tell he's going to swing. It's kind of disappointing that you don't see the outcome, but I like the buildup enough that I'm fine with it. Like I'm not going to bitch about it. And you do get a reveal in this case here later that really kind of ties together what happened. So it is satisfying in conclusion the way they tie this up for his character. So I'm not going to bitch about it. I like this sequence not as much as I like the one previous, but it's still a strong attack sequence for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, you do get to see the aftermath. You get a nice bloody neck stump and a decapitated head that we do see. So while you don't see the initial kill, it does come back into play because Stacy is back at the camp with Betsy, and she tells Betsy that she is going to go look for Bill and Dave, and she's going to take a ride. She's going to take the truck and drive to the end of the trail to see if she can find anybody. That's what she does. Not before Ellie and Bill are in that tent making passionate love. Can you imagine making passionate love with Ellie?
They're lovers. You get this shot of their feet intertwined. Like imagine walking in on that and be like, oh, like she turns up, she looks up, and you're like, holy shit, God, oh my God, yeah. But somehow they're madly in love, and Stacy pops her little afro head in through the tent, and she's like, oops, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but people are missing, so we need to send more sacrificial lambs out into the fold, So these two are the next ones to wander out, as well as Stacy. She too is about to go out and look for them as well. But really, it is becoming just like I said, procedural. Like one after another, these sheep are following each other out to their deaths.
She tells them, "Don't rush, but hurry. We need to get." And he's like, "Yeah, we're coming." A double entendre, maybe. But yeah, so she goes to the truck. Madman is watching her, and you can hear him growling and heaving as he's watching Stacy go to the truck. She gets in it, won't start. So this broad, she's able to work on cars because she pops that hood open, fiddles with it, gets back into the truck, starts it right up, and pulls away just as Madman reaches his hand to grab the door handle. She pulls away. Like I said, he's always lurking.
Always lurking. And I'm like, how did you not catch this? How did you not understand? But somehow, some way, she doesn't notice the massive hulking figure looming right beside the vehicle.
Ellie and Bill have gone back to the camp, and they have decided, or Bill has decided, you know what, we need more people. Like TP was stupid for going out by himself. He should have gotten all of us. You don't go look for a missing person by yourself. The more people, the better. So he's gonna go, and Ellie's like, well, I'll go with you. And she goes. Those two head out now. Stacy is wandering through the woods, calling for everybody. TP, Dave, Richie. We see that shot of Madman, his hand wrapping around the tree trunk. Again, it's always shots of him there. We always know he's there. She continues until she finds Dave's lantern on the ground. And she then sees him she sees his legs like hanging over a log. She's like, Dave, are you all right? Are you hurt? So she goes up to him, and all of a sudden, I don't know how this is possible, but the body pops up, and we do get the bloody neck stump. We see he's decapitated. bloody neck stump. Blood is gushing from the wound. She gets splattered with it. She fucking screams bloody murder. I love her scream. And then she looks over and she sees like his head on the ground. And that bitch takes off running. Between her taking off running and him finding her, he must drag Dave's body back to the farmhouse. So the farmhouse can't be that far away.
That's been the ongoing issue here the whole time, though. The farmhouse is obviously very close, so it just none of this really makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so she, I agree. I like the scream. I like the whole buildup of the sequence. I love the way she discovers this reveal of like the legs leading into the shot of his head, which is so creepy. I even like that she's got this little splatter of blood on her face that maintains for the rest of the sequence. But Stacey is, like I said, I think she's probably my favorite character. Roughly, I'm going to say that. So I'm happy that she gets a pretty cool sequence. But I was like, oh god, I hope she makes it back to the camp. I really do. But again, these individuals are dropping one by one, so it's kind of like one after another. So she does not. She is another one that does not survive.
Yeah, I feel like she makes a pretty stupid mistake, perhaps, because she runs back to the truck and she trips a few times, obviously. When she gets back to the truck, of course it won't start. The second the truck would not start, Roger, for me, I would have just ran back to the camp. Just take off running. But she decides that it's better to, knowing that there's a killer out there, pop the hood open, fiddle around with it. When she pops the hood and lifts it, we do see his silhouette is standing behind the truck. It's real ominous, real creepy. While she's fiddling in the trunk, Madman takes it upon himself to decide the best way to kill this woman. I'm not going to use my axe. I'm not going to use a rope. I'm going to decapitate her with the hood of the truck, because he climbs up on the truck and then proceeds to jump onto the hood so that it slams on her head, and her head is chopped clean off because her body falls back and we see her bloody neck stump with blood gushing out of it. And Stacey is dead, decapitated by a truck hood. I don't know the logistics of that, but here we go.
This whole bit is pretty annoying because I've liked her character up to this point, but her reasoning, her rationale here is just not believable to me. I think that overall, I would really expect more fear from this individual after seeing what she's seen. And for a character who's consistently been kind of hitting the emotional beats I've been wanting, for this to feel so downplayed and understated, to me, does not fit her character. Like, I would expect that she'd be panicking. I would expect that she would be more exaggerated. But she gets back to the vehicle and maybe she's trying to be quiet. I don't know, but like be quiet and like have tears flowing down your face. I don't know. Like, show that you're scared. You just found your friend's dead body. And like, so she's like, yeah, like you said, like she's lifting the hood of the car and she's going through all of this nonsense and rigmarole. And then it does lead to what is this cool kill. It does lead to this really cool kill, but it overall it felt a bit off for me, the whole bit of her at the vehicle. It took away the suspense for a moment. It kind of deflated the balloon a little bit. And I just think that they could have played this with more intensity and had it hit harder.
I agree. I think the build up to the deaths, the first two deaths, was pretty great, and this one not so much. Not that I don't like what happens. I mean, I do. I love a creative kill. I think the only other film I've seen that uses a car hood for a decapitation is Home Sweet Home, which is an early 80s Thanksgiving themed slasher that I don't know if it came out before or after this. So, but it uses very similar setup for a death scene. So I was like, this is really cool. I just don't buy that her character would be so like nonchalant. Like, this character, I feel like, would have booked her ass back to the camp and not stood in the middle of the road, a sitting duck for whoever just cut your friend's head off to come and attack you. But I do like that where it leads when we see a big reveal here in a minute with Bill and Ellie, because now they are out in the woods wandering around. They split up. Yeah, Bill, they seem to be able to find these same locations over and over again because Bill does find the location where TP was hung because he does see the rope mark in the tree. Ellie's wandering and she comes to the truck. And as she peers over the clearing, she literally sees this hulking creature, madman, above Stacy's body. And what does this woman do? She begins shrieking to draw attention to herself. Bill! Bill! And she takes off running. She just alerted Madman.
The cut to her face is already jarring. Like there is this weird cut to her face. Like after all of this action is done, it cuts over to her looking like, I'm scared, I'm uncomfortable, we need to figure out what to do, or whatever she's saying. I mean, she's so unpleasant to look at that the cut to her face alone made me jump. Then this whole thing that happens here with her splitting up and they're just wandering through the woods and she just comes upon what is Madman Marz looming over the corpse of Stacy, and her instinct is to scream. And I am so mad about her reaction here. Fucking shut the fuck up, be quiet. Why the fuck would you scream? Why would you want to give away what is happening? Why would you want to give away where you are? Why would you want to alert this massive hulking man who it's very clear, like, yes, she's in the woods, but she can clearly see what's happening. Why would you shriek? And he turns up, he looks right at her, and she just takes off running into the woods. But it is one of the most lackluster flights of fear I've ever seen. Like this woman is like power walking through the woods with her face, her mouth agape, but she's just like kind of like moving it like kind of a fast pace, like kind of a jog. And she gets to her handsome boyfriend and he's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And she's like, "Oh, it was just so big and dark and huge." I'm like, "That doesn't sound bad at all." She's like, "It was horrible." I was like, "Horrible? Like, you're telling me you're describing something that me and my friend Bill probably like a lot of, big and huge and dark." So, but no, so she's just like, the way this woman reacts in moments of terror is just so hard to look at. And like her voice, her screams, it's just everything about her. It just is it very just unpleasant to the eye and to the ear. And so her response here, it just really takes away from the sequence for me. And the problem is you're about to get a lot of her for like a big chunk of the remainder of the movie. Like it's about to become the Ellie show, and I don't want it. The one thing I did not want was for her to become the focus of attention for a stretch of period of time in this movie, but that's what we're about to get. And the way she responds, the way she reacts here really does kind of ruin some of the film for me. Like, or honestly, like I find her inability to defend herself or make good choices, or honestly, just even physically respond in a pleasant way. I just find her so hard to look at that I kind of was, God, do I fast forward through these scenes? That is how I felt about watching her upcoming J sequence. It is really, really hard to watch.
Well, I love that she tells Bill it's so horrible. It was so horrible. And he's like, well, let's go see. Let's go see if it was really as horrible as you say. So he literally drags her back. He drags this bitch back to the truck to make her like, oh, did you really see this? They get into the truck to drive away and he starts to start the truck. I love the noise, like the squishy noise that you hear. They're both like, what the fuck? So he gets out and opens the trunk to reveal Stacy's head is lodged into the engine. So every time the engine's trying to start, it's the fan or whatever is hitting the head.
I mean, I like the audio, but that head would be mangled. This does not make sense. I also like when they get back to the truck and she just saw this hulking man with flowing hair over top Stacy's dead body. And again, this is another weird reaction similar to what we saw from Betsy earlier. They get back to the truck. He's like, "There's nothing here, Ellie." And she's like, "You're right," with her big gaping mouth smile and her doe eyes looking up at him. And I'm just like, really, bitch? You just saw a monster man over your friend's dead body. I really think you need to challenge him here. But she just gets right in the vehicle. She's smiling, or at least I think she is. I can't even tell what her expression is. And then this whole bit that comes up here, like when he gets out and he finds the head in the engine, is cool. But like I said, I would expect more from the gore factor, but it is what it is. He grabs the head, he throws it out of the vehicle, and he gets in the vehicle and they're starting to drive away. And I do like this whole bit here that comes up of Madman Marz showing the fuck up and just pulling dude from the windshield or through the side window of the car, pulling him through it as she's just sitting there like an infant with her arms out reach, like, no, Bill, no. Like, I really like a lot of what happens in this scene. I just don't like her. Like, I love how the vehicle just careens into a tree, but then her potato sack body gets launched from the car and she just injures her leg and she's like, oh, Bill. And like, there's so much about this sequence to enjoy, but again, she's so over the top in what she's doing that it makes it hard to watch.
Well, she does see the head. He tells her to stay in the car, and she does not. She comes out and she sees it, and from that moment on, she's hysterical. Yeah, when Bill is being dragged out of the car, I just like the fact that she's reaching for him like helplessly. Bill. She doesn't try to do anything. She doesn't actually grab him to help to pull him back in. She just lets him be pulled out of the window. And then, yeah, the car careens into a tree. She flies out of the passenger door. And from this point forward, her leg is injured. And she gets up and she sees Madman holding Bill above his head. And Bill is screaming, Ellie, Ellie. And then you hear crunching noises. So I'm assuming, because you don't see it, I'm assuming he breaks Bill's back.
I really wanted to fucking see it. And I think that they could have pulled this off. But for some reason, it's just her weird face screaming as you hear the audio of him getting crunched in half. And then you just see her kind of like wobble away. Like, I don't know. And this whole time under my breath, I'm like, please don't give this woman a chase scene. Please do not give this homely lady a chase scene. But I mean, they give it and they continue to give it. Like, this woman runs the entire perimeter of the fucking campground. She goes through every fucking building. She's raiding fridges. Like, this woman is about to be very present in this movie. So, like, get ready, because it sure ain't Betsy. Betsy's been doing nothing but just fucking sitting on her ass. Like, really, give Betsy some of this fucking action. But no, it's Ellie. And she gets back and she's just like, help, please. Oh my God. And I'd be hysterical too, but I would at least just be a little more capable of defending myself. All this woman can do is outreach her arms in front of her and run blindly into the night. That's all she's got. That's the only ability she has. And so, like, it's like, just kill her already. I don't know why they draw it out so long.
Well, how did Betsy not hear her wailing? When she gets back to the camp, she is literally running through every camp, going into every cabin. Betsy! 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 How did Betsy not hear her? Is what I want.
It's not like there's like any ambient noise in this like the campground. It's as quiet as possible. Like, it's the children are sleeping and she's just hanging out. Like, I'm confident you would have heard those shrieks from a mile away.
Absolutely. But then before we get to her chase scene, we have to remember Madman has dragged Bill's body, because we assume he broke Bill's back. That's what I'm assuming. I don't know. We never see it, but he drags Bill's body back to the farmhouse where Richie is still there, Roger. He's still there. He sees the whole thing go down. He sees Madman goes inside. He sees Madman come back outside with his axe. And then Richie proceeds to go back into the farmhouse. That's what I'm saying. He can't find his way back to the camp, but he's back at this farmhouse. He creeps slowly into the basement until he comes to into the actual basement room. He steps into the light and his face goes completely aghast with horror, or the best that this actor can do by showing horror. That's what we get. We don't see what he sees yet, but he sees something horrible.
From what I expect from this actor, this moment does give me quite a lot. I'm surprised that it hits as hard as it does. I like that we don't see what he sees here, to be honest, because his reaction is surprisingly surprisingly effective, I would say. And it definitely implies there is something horrible here, and you, as the viewer, want to see it. So I actually quite like this moment. I don't think that the payoff at the end of the movie really makes it seem as I mean, I guess it would be as horrific. You're finding an array of dead bodies. That's what it is. But for what it ends up being for me as a viewer, I was like hoping for something significantly more ghastly. But I mean, it's a pretty cool moment. I like, for as far as Richie goes, this is, I would say, his most effective moment in the film. Is this discovery of what this horrific visual is that he finds within the basement layer.
I actually agree with you. I do like that they don't show what he sees. We just have to see his face go a whore, so it makes our curiosity even more piqued. Back at the camp, Ellie is just running through the different fucking cabins. She's crying, hysterical. She goes into a main cabin and is crying for Betsy. She's like, hey, anybody? She looks so pathetic, so just helpless. It's almost sad. It's almost sad how pathetic this woman looks. She hears something and she runs back to the front of this cabin to see that the doorway is now open, like the front door is open. So she steps into the door frame, and we see Madman there, and she sees him, and she screams, slams the door. I'm let me be clear. I'm going through this fast, but the woman takes a long time is spent on her just walking through these cabins. A long time. I'm speeding it up quite a bit, but just know we are subjected to her crying, slobbering, walking through these cabins. I mean, she goes to the back, all the way to the back to this one until she hears the door, and we watch her come all the way back to the front of it before Madman finally appears.
How is this fucking incompetent lady still alive at this point is beyond me. But now we get this whole prolonged bit of her walking the length of what is like the dining area, and she walks the whole room. There's nothing there. And she goes all the way back, and then she sees him. So he's like, oh, fuck. And he's like, ah, bleh. And so she's like, I got to run all the way back again. So now she goes back to where she just was. And she's like, what the fuck do I do? And he's coming. And so she's like, I guess I'm going to hide in this refrigerator, which like, okay. Like, I feel like, are you sure? Like, that's the best call? Because that seems like that's going to leave a trail of breadcrumbs.
She throws everything out of it.
She throws the contents of the fridge.
She throws the ham out, the milk. It's all laid in front of the refrigerator. And if you also notice, there's a pantry door right next to the refrigerator. Why didn't she run in there? But she proceeds to throw
tiny woman.
She proceeds to throw all of their lunch the next day out onto the floor and literally crawl into this refrigerator. This has to be the most baffling hiding place to come out of the 80s.
Yeah, but I think because like we haven't really seen this before, I was also like, okay, like cool. I was hoping you would lift the entire refrigerator and like throw it off a cliff. I don't know. Like who knows? I'm sure there's a cliff around here too. There's an abandoned house next door. Maybe there's a cliff by that. But no, so she's in this fridge and he doesn't up on the fridge or crush it or anything like that. He just stomps around the room and like causes some destruction, and then he just walks away. And there's a whole long bit of her opening the fridge door and looking around. And I think she's smiling. She looks like she's about to break into The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow by Annie. And she's looking around wide-eyed, and I can't tell if she's gape-mouth feared or overjoyed. But now we get a significantly slower creeping sequence that we got before of the exact same room. It just is so weird. Like she gets this big, long creeping sequence through the same exact space we saw before. And like the camera's spinning around her. And like, it's just like, bitch, do something. Run, arm yourself. I don't know, kill yourself. Do something. But don't just stand there gape mouth for 5 minutes waiting for this guy to come get you.
I feel like she did not give enough time before she got out of that refrigerator. She should have waited a little bit longer to make sure he was gone. And I also, how stupid does she have to be to not think that he saw all the contents of the refrigerator on the floor in front of it? This is not a stupid man. And yes, when she gets out, there's that moment. She looks so proud of herself when she reaches the front door and it's open. She looks, her eyes are all lit up. She looks like, oh my God, I look at me. I outsmarted him. She's so happy. But until she takes a step, and then you see the axe raise, and this woman is finally disposed of by being axed in the chest. We see the axe go and he rips it out. Blood is gushing everywhere. She has that really wild, weird reaction where she stumbles backwards with like her hands up in front of her face and like just collapses onto the floor. Very over the top, but it's actually crazily effective. Like, I mean, it's pretty brutal seeing this poor little elfin woman being taken down by this giant axe.
It is pretty brutal. Her reaction is, I think it would be comedic, but like luckily the gore is pretty wild, so it actually hits. For one moment, it actually hits with her. But like again, she just kind of backs up a little bit and takes an axe to the chest and dies. And I was like, girl, come on. I just wish she would have done something. At least fucking Betsy gets a gun. I mean, I don't know. Even with before Stacy armed herself with a switchblade, she didn't get to use it, but at least like people are trying to be proactive. This girl doesn't do anything. It's very satisfying to see her take an axe to the chest. It was like just having the biggest shit after a long day. Honestly, like it was like busting a load after feverishly hate masturbating for 3 hours after a long bad day of work. That's how it felt because I was so miserable through this whole sequence of having to watch her. Seeing her die was a relief, but I do wish it would have been like a bigger, more gnarly death. Luckily, there is a beat coming up involving her again that is like very satisfying. But I was kind of shocked by how quickly he dispatched her. Like it's an axe to the chest. It does look pretty cool, and she drops. She's down.
Yeah, it's, I mean, a huge buildup for just a quick, impactful hit to the chest with an axe.
I do like really quick, Troy. There's a moment that I want to note that like when she first sees him looking at her, like peering. No, it's when she's walking around the room and he's hiding behind the door with there's a crack in the wooden boards. You see his face hidden for a moment, but it's very clear like the makeup under his eyes has been rubbed off because his face is extremely gray, but you see very visible like peach skin. And it was just like, oh, whoa. If you freeze it, they cut away from it really quick, I think intentionally, but you can see like where the line of the makeup is around his eyes and it looks like kind of bad.
I mean, the makeup for this villain isn't the greatest, let's be honest. But now Betsy finally comes outside. I don't know how she hasn't heard all this commotion. She finally comes outside and she goes directly across the way to the cabin that Ellie was just killed in, and she actually looks into the window and she sees blood on the floor and she sees Ellie's legs. So she immediately runs back to the office and she calls the local bar because she knows that's where Max is at, and she tells him he needs to get back immediately, that there's blood everywhere, please come back. And of course he's like, oh, okay, Betsy, stay put, I'll be back ASAP. Then she looks out the window again and she sees Madman rush by the window with an axe. So she does, I mean, she gets a shotgun, she loads it. She is not armed with the fucking shotgun. I know how you love a broad arm with a shotgun.
I love it.
Yeah, well,
I love it.
Here she goes. So she doesn't just stay in the cabin either. She goes outside to confront whatever's out there, and she's walking, gun pointed in front of her. She's walking back over to that cabin. She's
walking for miles. Yeah. It feels like miles.
It does feel like miles. When just a minute ago we saw that it was literally like, you know, a second away. But as she approaches the cabin slowly, Roger, Ellie appears in the window. Apparently she's not dead. She's in the window, and Betsy's reaction is to immediately blow her away.
Thank God. Oh my God. This is the best part of the movie. I was so satisfied here. And poor Betsy, very similar to last week's episode of Dogs. If you haven't listened, please do. But there is a similar moment there. This was very satisfying though. And I was like, oh, good. Ellie did get a worse death after all. And I love a woman with a shotgun, but I especially love Galen Ross with a shotgun. Also, very important sequences in Dawn of the Dead involving her strutting around with a shotgun. So this is not her first time wielding a shotgun, but it is Betsy's. And Betsy blows Ellie away. And for a moment, she's like, Ellie. And then After that, she's like, fuck it. And she's like, we got to take care of the kids. She couldn't be less phased by having massacred this woman. And I get it. I would be like, oh, thank God. Oh my God. After all that time having to fucking coexist with her, that had to be very satisfying. So Betsy's kicking it into high gear. She's calling to the children who come out and see that she just shot a woman. And she's like, get ready, get in the bus. We're fucking leaving. I'm like, thank God somebody is stepping up. Finally.
All 5 children.
All 5 of them in their nightgowns. All of these children can't act their ways out of a paper bag, by the way. All these kids, stone-faced. These kids are about to go through some pretty traumatic experiences. Like, these kids are about to get attacked by a grown man with very long meatloaf-like hair in a bus, and they sit like it's like the village of the damned. These kids are just sitting there through this whole sequence with no emotion in their eyes at all, silent. There's no screaming. I'm like, God, these kids are desensitized. What are they doing to these children at this camp? Are they fucking like putting them through fucking like mental torture, trying to break their spirits? Because not one of these kids reacts to what happens here.
Well, there was a school bus the whole time, so these people should have been long gone. But she gets all the kids on the bus. You know, as she's pulling away, we do see his Madman's hand bang on the window. But then 30 seconds later, when she's driving down the road, he's in front of them. So I'm like, how did that happen? Can he time warp? Because there's no way he would have been able to get all the way in front of them if he was just, because she's driving. So he runs in front of them, the bus. She stops it. I'm like, bitch, keep floor it at that point.
Hit him.
Yes, at that point,
Hit
floor it.
him.
Yeah. I mean, so she stops and he immediately like comes to the door of the bus and's like banging in to get in, and his hand comes in. Only one kid is helping her, that one older one that looks like he's about 30, and she immediately has to like bash his hand multiple times with the shotgun handle, the butt of the shotgun, until he finally does pull his hand out. And you know what? I on one hand, I guess I admire Betsy, but on the other hand, what a fucking stupid decision. At this point, she should have got back in that driver's seat, drove their asses out of there. But no, she feels some sort of weird sense of obligation to go after this man and to find Richie, because she mentions Richie specifically. I'm like, bitch, no.
Fuck Richie.
And plus she tells this kid who's supposed to be a teenager, how old is he supposed to be? Like 13? He's supposed to be. She's like, drive it to the police station and I'll be there. I'm like, lady,
oh my God,
you're making a string of bad decisions, starting with shooting a woman. Now but she lets this kid, and he's not phased, Roger. He is not phased. He's like, okay. He gets in the driver's seat and he literally pulls the bus away. How a 13-year-old kid knows how to drive a fucking school bus that you have to have a special license to learn how to drive, beyond me. And they're teaching a lot of shit at this camp, apparently.
I have so many issues with what's happening here. First of all, like, the phone lines aren't even cut. Call the fucking police. Like, you know, why would you go into this alone? It's not like up to this point she's been kicking ass and taking names. She just tried to wield a gun and killed a woman. So it's not like this girl is really a badass. I admire her chutzpah, but now is not the time. Get these children to safety, and I'm sure when you come back, this fucker will still be looking in the woods where he's been for the last, 30 years. I'm sure they'll find him. Or maybe they won't. They haven't somehow yet found him. So, but whatever. So she goes back in the woods, and I'm just like, there's so many directions this final act could have taken. And it seems so perfectly set up to have a bigger, better ending than it does. Like, Max is on his way back. There's, other elements. The kids are going off to get help. You don't see the kids again, and there's that one little girl who seems to have a close relationship with Betsy. And that's just kind of done with. Like, okay, so the kids drive off. Betsy struts up to the house, shotgun in hand. She's really looking to get down to business. And it just, things happen. There's some things that are going to happen. There is an ending, but I really think that this film should have made a priority about trying to, if you're going to send Betsy back into the fray like this, make it a moment. Make it a big fucking moment for her. Give her a reason to be a quote unquote final girl or not. She's not a final girl. And she gets a taste of it. We're about to have one brief moment where she is kind of a badass, but it doesn't feel earned in a way. I feel like really this girl needs to get thrown the fuck around. She needs to be cutting off some arms. She needs to use that shotgun and fucking blow a hole in his chest, something before you take it to where you're about to take it. I really feel like they rush through this final act with her so fast that what they're trying to do here, it's supposed to feel shocking and powerful, but because they just move through it so quickly, it doesn't. It feels very empty. It feels like you're kind of like you said, you do this character dirty. You're doing her a disservice. She deserved to have more of a moment here being the last one standing. I don't understand why they really deprive her of that.
Yeah, I will say the ending for me is not. I do not like this ending. Now, like I said, I like the boldness. However, I think it would have been highly more effective if there was more confrontation and struggle between her and Madman. And it kind of left the viewer thinking for a moment that she could get the best of him. Do you know what I mean? A more long drawn out battle. We've seen some great battles like, Alice versus Mrs. Voorhees. We've seen them, Jenny versus Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2, where we see like this is battles going back and forth, and at any time one of them could emerge the victor. And we're just so used to an 80s slasher film, it's going to be the final girl. She's going to somehow come and be able to overcome the villain. Let's be clear here. Let's be perfectly clear. You're saying there's a moment of her being a badass. I would disagree. I think from the moment she gets off the bus to her going into that farmhouse, there's nothing she does. She is dispatched very quickly. Can we need to acknowledge that? I guess kudos to her for being courageous. I guess there's a badass trait there, knowing that your friends have probably been murdered and you're traipsing right into the hub of danger, this farmhouse, without any hesitation. Okay, that's kind of badass. But let's be clear, when she gets in that house, there's a moment of her walking around. She's taking it all in. She heads upstairs for a moment before she hears creaking. So she goes back downstairs. Something falls. She shoots the shotgun, and she's like, "Oh fuck, there's nothing there." And we see Madman like in the other room, and he slowly comes out of darkness and approaches her with the axe raised. She sees him. She backs away. He swings the axe, immediately knocks the gun out of her hand. She falls onto the floor, and you're thinking, okay, she's going to pick something up. She's going to hit him. She's going to do. No, Roger. He slashes her across the face with his claws, and he rips her whole fucking cheek open. I mean, this wound, her whole cheek is literally gone. And at that moment, Roger, holy shit, there is no way she's going to survive. God, why couldn't there have been more of a struggle? Why couldn't she have picked up a board and hit him, and there could have been a fight? There could have been more chase. She runs upstairs. She hides. I mean, this is it, because he rips her cheek open. He drags her down to the cellar. She's screaming, "Help me, help me." And then we don't even get this. There's no beats. We are not giving any moment to take this in, because he lifts her up, and we see there are hooks, like meat hooks, embedded in this basement wall. He immediately slams her on this hook, and it comes out of her chest. That's it. She has not been in this house longer than a minute before she's dispatched. It is that fucking quick.
It's really disappointing. And again, I came into this really wanting to see Galen Ross in a leading role. And what this ends up being, it's not a leading role. If you're going to make her the final girl, make her the final fucking girl and earn that title. And it feels like they ran out of time. Like, it feels like they ran out of time on that location and we're like, we just got to rush through this. We just got to get the basics, because there's that long drawn out bit of her walking around and it just takes forever. And it's like, Like, why couldn't you spend this time letting her get to the basement and seeing the bodies for herself? Let her character have a moment of reaction, connectivity with the material. Let her have a revelation. Let her understand what's going on. She really doesn't know what's happened. She doesn't know that everyone else is dead. She, aside from Ellie, she is not clued in on really much of anything that's happened. So it's like the storyline here, there's so much potential to just go so much further with it. And this is not a long movie. This movie could have used an extra 10 minutes and really just let it go to her. And so, yeah, you're right. From the moment she gets knocked down, you're like, oh, fuck. He's trying to fire the gun and it just doesn't work. And he just gets her down. He drags her. I like the visual of her getting dragged across the house by the jacket. That feels pretty intense. But she can't do anything. She's screaming. Her face is all bloody. He takes her, he puts her on the hook. And when that hook goes through her, you're like, holy fuck. Like, A, very Texas Chainsaw. I see what we're doing here. But B, like, there ain't no way she survived that. It goes through her chest.
The hook also reminded me of The Mutilator later on. That's the film I referenced earlier that because he hangs the people on, he slams them on a hook in the garage closet. I think that was definitely a reference to this. But yeah, she, in her dying moments, she had a knife the whole time. Like, where did this come from? Why couldn't she have pulled that knife out when she was up in the living room after he knocked her down on the floor? But she has a fucking knife. She's had it the whole time. She pulls it out, and his back is to her, and she's like, enough. And she stabs him in the back with the knife, and it causes him to twirl around and knock the candle over. And she dies, and then we are able to see what Richie saw earlier, which is he has all of the bodies, including, I don't know if you noticed, like there's like 3 like really decayed bodies there that I'm assuming are his wife and kids, which begs the question, if they've been there the whole time, how come the cops didn't find them? I thought the bodies disappeared. But all the bodies are in the basement. The basement goes up in flames. He is not dead. He turns and like walks away.
Yeah, it's very unclear what's happening, but it's implying that the house is burning down, but they don't really show the fire. Like, it just illuminates the room. And I guess it's implying maybe she stabbed him and like he's going to die too, but that is not clear. The way the movie concludes, like, it is very open-ended and unpleasantly so. And so you've got this moment where they're trying to make her look like a badass when she's like, enough, and she shoves the blade into his back. But it's just, again, it feels, for her to get to that point, it just feels so, like I said, like, not earned. She really deserved to have more time with him. And so it just makes her character feel very throwaway. It's disappointing because I'm such a fan of her in Dawn of the Dead. I was really hoping to see her just be a badass here, but she's just disposable.
I will say, as much as there are things that I enjoy about this film, and I do like the film way more than you do, I will say I think this is the film that treats its final girl the worst of any slasher film I've ever seen. Again, kudos for being bold and killing the final girl off. I mean, very few slasher films around this time had the balls to do it. There's The Dorm That Dripped Blood, which has a very bleak ending, but at least there was a chase leading up to that. And the actress, the final girl, got a very long chase scene up through rafters of the school cafeteria. It was very long, prolonged. This, I could just, like, it happens so quickly. She doesn't even get to do any, like, she doesn't inflict any damage on him before he slams her onto that hook. Again, she gets a stab in, but that's it. I don't think it kills him. I think the ending makes it very clear that he is not dead, because what happens after this scene is we cut to Max driving down the road. He's getting back to the camp. And who does he see standing in the middle of the road? Somehow now Richie's able to find the road. 7 hours later, after wandering around the dark, he's able to be on the road. So Richie is standing there looking like fucking in a catatonic state. Max pulls his vehicle over, gets out, and asks Richie, what's the matter? What happened? And Richie said, Madman Marz. He's real. And then you get the theme music that starts to play, and which is the song that you so graciously opened the episode with. But it's as the theme song is playing in the credit, you get a freeze frame on Ricky's face, but you also, behind that freeze frame, you're seeing Madman walking through the woods with the axe. Yes, it's the same scene from earlier where before he attacked Dave, but I'm also very much positive that it's insinuating he's still alive and he's still lurking in the woods.
You also get that weird kind of overlay of the victims all lined up, which is obviously what he saw from his perspective when he found the bodies. You're seeing what he saw that caused him to react that way. So I like maybe that closure that tied together for him, but it just feels like to me the story feels incomplete. I hate this ending. I think it's just such a lame duck of an ending. To take it out on this note, like it feels like there's so many things left to be addressed or acknowledged. First of all, let's acknowledge the fact that the urban legend in fact came to life and is real. It just never really has a proper closure or finalization. And it feels, I don't know, it just feels when we went through all of this, and I feel at the end of this, I'm like, what's the purpose? Like, what's the payoff here? Ending this movie and everyone that died, I don't feel especially close or drawn to any of the characters. It never spawned a sequel, as far as I know. Is that correct? No sequel. Like, yeah, there's no story to expand upon here. So I feel like it kind of just went by for me. The movie just went by, and it doesn't hold a lot of weight to it. I really wish I cared about a character here or something like that, or even the villain. And I don't have that. And the ending hits that home for me. I think that's why I have such a distaste in my mouth, is because I was like, well, okay, if this movie's bad, at least it can be bad for me, but go out on a strong note. You got Galen fucking Ross in a shotgun. And it just gives me that. The ending being one of the worst parts of the film. I think I have kind of a hangover from this movie because that ending, beyond anything, leaves me just so unsatisfied. I'm so bummed with the way this movie ends.
I think it's a movie that could have been possibly benefited from a sequel. I'm assuming they probably had sequel ideas in mind, and the film just wasn't successful enough to justify making a sequel. Although, again, I think it has over the years created its own cult following. The Madman holding the axe is an image you will see at any horror convention. Any horror artist that does any horror art at a horror convention, you will see Madman merchandise without a doubt. He's definitely influenced Victor Crowley and other horror villains to come after him. I enjoy the movie, but I'm going to say, for as weak as it is, I think that it has been highly influential, which says a lot. I am not by any means saying this is a well-made movie, but what I will say is I think that once it kind of hits its stride, even though it's a very repetitive stride, people walking into the woods getting killed, like I said, it gives me more than something like The Burning, which its big death scene is basically 6 people at once, and that's the highlight of the film. This film is more the traditional slasher route, where individuals are wandering off and getting killed, and that's kind of what I like about it. And I like that the atmosphere. Like I said, like I mentioned earlier, I think this really does a phenomenal job at creating such a creepy, uneasy atmosphere when the characters are out in the woods, and you know Madman is lurking because you see him silhouetted, you see his gnarly hand grabbing at things, and you're like, oh shit, when is he gonna pop out? But yeah, I will say the ending definitely is a sour note for me. It's much like The Burning. It's a standalone film, never got a remake, never got a sequel. And I think both of them probably could have benefited from expanding the story, especially this one, because it's heavily implied Madman is still alive. We know that Richie's still alive, so we could have expanded on that story, but it is what it is. It's a fairly short film. I think it does move, for the most part, pretty briskly. You're not getting a lot of characters sitting around chatting. I mean, this moves pretty quickly into the kills, and once the kills start, it moves at a pretty methodic pace. It's like they're paced out 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. So again, I still, having watched it this time, I still will place it above The Burning personally. I would love to hear our listeners' opinions I would love a Burning versus Madman discussion to break out on our social media. Which one?
It's gonna
Which one?
It's gonna get violent, I feel. No, I'm curious. So what is okay? So if you're gonna do the 4 campground slashers that we've covered, what is your order, favorite to least favorite? Now that
So
we've
I
covered
would
all of them.
say if we're talking about like Friday I would say Friday the 13th Part 2 for sure is my number 1, followed by Sleepaway Camp number 2, Madman 3, Burning 4.
Mine would be Burning 1, Sleepaway Camp 2, Friday the 13th 3, and then a long plummet to number 4 being Madman.
Interesting.
I don't think I'll ever watch this film again, to be honest. I think that it left such a bad taste in my mouth. And the thing that sucks, I came in revving and ready to go. I thought I was going to love it because of Galen Ross. So it's not something where I even came in with like a sour attitude. I came in being like, yeah, I've seen this cover art. I'm ready. So I'm bummed. I'm mad. I hope my mind has changed. Maybe if I can get through a repeat viewing, I'll see the charm in it.
I think it's
But yeah.
I think it definitely has its charms. I really do. And again, you have Ellie. I mean, come on. What more do you want? What more do you want?
Thank God.
So
Thank God.
hey, I'm glad you finally saw this because I knew it was a film you hadn't seen, and I'm all about showing you, exposing you to classics, quote unquote, that you haven't seen. I have plenty more up my sleeve. Don't worry. We're gonna exhaust most of the 80s slasher films when all is said and done with this podcast. Rest assured there. But I'm sorry, I'm kind of bummed that you didn't enjoy it. I was really hoping you would get a kick out of it and have a little bit of fun with it. But I guess you're gonna have to cleanse your palate of Madman and Ellie being so traumatic for you. So I'm really curious of what you are going to subject me and the listeners to next week in order to accomplish that.
I am going a completely different route. I'm going for something dramatic. I think we've covered some lighter fare. We've covered a few movies that it's been easy to chuckle along with and have a good time. But I want to watch something that a movie I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I haven't seen in a very long time. And it's a film that the overall, I would say, like fans of the film and viewership overall is a significantly more positive response than the critical rating at the time. So I want to see how this movie has held up, because this is a film that at the time it came out, it was quite impactful for me. It's 1999's Stigmata. And I want to view this as, a former Catholic who has not watched this movie in a very long time. I'm curious to see how this movie affects me today, at almost 39. So, and I'm pretty sure you said you've only seen bits and pieces.
I've never seen the whole thing. I've seen I know it was on cable years ago, and I caught small bits and pieces. I know it has the fabulous Patricia Arquette, who we all know and love, Oscar winner Patricia Arquette. So I'm really excited to sit down with this one and watch it. And it's totally completely opposite of, you're right, Madman Session 9, the last couple episodes we've done. So I'm super, super excited to get into something a little bit more serious. And I'm sure because of your Catholic upbringing and me lacking any religious upbringing, I think the conversation is going to be one insightful and worth listening to. So listeners, tune in next week with Stigmata. But in the meantime, we need to ignite that burning versus Madman conflict. We want that argument. We need that argument. So
we need a poll. That's what
we are going to do
a poll. And
you know what? Hey,
it's Roger versus
if
Troy.
The burning comes out on top, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad because I can see
if Madman comes out top, I'm going to be pissed off. that broad with that fucking macaw-like face. I can't get enough of that one. But to each their own. I suppose.
Yeah. But guys, thank you for tuning in, and we will be back next week. I said, next year, not next year. We will be back next week to talk some religious symbolism, I guess. Right? Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of religious talk. So, guys, thank you again, and we love you. Good night.
Good night, friends. Good night.